Welcome into the Inside Scoop. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and we're going to get into it. We got a lot to cover. It's going to be kind of a Rivals flair to this show. Of course, we are Rivals now. Remember, this is now the Rivals recruiting channel, the original source for high school recruiting. So make sure you guys are subscribed as well. All right. Today's show, we're going to talk to a couple of the big-time Rivals national guys, including Adam Gorney and Sam Spiegelman. We're also going to talk about Alabama. They are red hot. They just landed their fourth five-star in the last 7 days. We're also going to talk a little Notre Dame. It looks like the Irish are about to go on a big run, so strap in. Let's get to it. Let's bring in national Rivals analyst Adam Gorney, West Coast guy out in California. Big addition to this show. We've been missing that West Coast flair. Adam, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Happy to be here, Josh.
Absolutely. All right. First time you're on the show, so let's get right into it. Put you on the hot seat. Let's talk about your June winners. I saw it posted on X, and you know, I saw Alabama at the top, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I'd have Alabama number one. Then I realized it was alphabetical. So we're going to have you on, and I want you to put it in ascending order. Let's get your top three. Who would be your top three winners of the month of June?
Yeah, Texas A&M ends the list here, but again, it's alphabetical. I would actually have them number one, mainly because they got Brandon Arrington, a phenomenal athlete, two-way standout that Oregon was really going after. And then some unexpected commitments. KJ Edwards looked like he was sort of a lock to Texas for a long time, but absolutely loved his visit to College Station and committed there. And then Zayden Krempin and Avery Morcho on the offensive line. Tristan Givens is a kid out of Georgia that we don't talk a lot about, but very talented edge rusher. So I would put them at number one, but Georgia is like, if there's a 1B, Georgia
right
would be right there. And all the complaints about, Georgia and NIL and not getting every guy that they want. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Jackson Cantwell as the year goes on, but Georgia did a phenomenal job on the offensive line with Egboko and Helton. They flipped Caden Harris. They flipped Shadarius Tootle, who looks a lot like Jalen Walker in person. They get Kamari Brooks, another big time edge guy there. Chase Calicut was a late addition who looked like a Texas lock. Ever since he got that Texas offer, he was telling people he was going there until Georgia really got involved. Jay Lamar, the running back, and on and on. And then they close like crazy down the stretch, almost like unbelievably well along the defensive line with James Johnson, PJ Dean, a converted offensive lineman, and Preston Carey to close out the month. So the rich get a lot richer there, and Georgia loads up. And then I think Alabama. And like you said, there's an argument for Alabama to be number one on this list. Probably not the best class, but certainly something that Kalen DeBoer can build off of. Paul Feinbaum said that it looked like a Saban class, and that's probably the best compliment that you can get. So he gets Xavier Griffin, who, flipped from USC. Let's not say flipped, but decommitted from there. Crowell, the running back, one of the top running backs in the country. Max Sutter, who I think is a super versatile kid who could play wide receiver or tight end. And then they flipped the quarterback that they wanted, Jet Thamala. So as much nervousness as there has been about Alabama in this recruiting class, it looks fine. And then they added C.D. Morgan this morning.
I know. How about that? Yeah. And when we talk about Alabama, I mean, that story isn't done being written yet. They just land C.D. Morgan. They're in line for possibly Jaira Edwards in a couple days, so they could be adding their fifth five-star to this class. Want to talk a little bit more about the first half of this cycle. You've just joined the team here at On3/Rivals, but you've been covering recruiting for a long time, and you've been covering this entire cycle. So what was maybe the biggest recruitment of the first half of the cycle so far?
Yeah, I'm going to start at number one, and I know that can kind of be an easy out, but Jackson Cantwell looked almost solidified to Georgia. That looked like it was a lock. It looked like it was done. Then he hires Drew Rosenhaus, and things got a lot more interesting, and he goes to Miami. And, Cantwell has talked about that it wasn't all about money and all of those things, and I believe him. It wasn't all about money, but it certainly was about money. And then his relationship with Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal down there with the Hurricanes. I think that was the biggest surprise and something that really kind of stood out early on in terms of just how impactful NIL is going to be in recruiting, how it has been, and how Kirby Smart is going to look at NIL and not just pony up the biggest dollars to get everybody. So I don't know if that will change, if he'll change his mind as things move forward, if Cantwell was a little bit of a tipping point for him. But he's recruiting very, very well. He's getting a lot of hungry guys there. But I think Cantwell going to Miami instead of Georgia was definitely the biggest so far.
Yeah. Especially after seeing Cantwell and Jared Curtis hanging out that weekend right before Cantwell came off the board. I mean, they looked like they were getting fitted for dorm rooms in Athens at the moment. So just kind of crazy to see it all happen. I mean, it doesn't shock me that Miami is the destination, like you said. Mario Cristobal and what that staff does with developing offensive linemen, I mean, it's no surprise. But if you followed the visits like normal recruiting used to be 10 years ago, it would have aligned with Georgia, but this is not normal recruiting. We're in a whole new era of NIL. So that being said, what recruitment or recruitments are you looking for in this second half of the cycle?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of them are coming off the board in this July 4th area. And as I try to shove a cheeseburger into my face, I'll be writing a lot and trying to talk to my kids on July 4th, watching the fireworks. But there are a few that are interesting in the top 10 here. I think Tristan Keys is very interesting. It seems like he's flirting big time with a lot of other programs. Lamar Brown is a kid who literally goes to school on LSU's campus, and he might turn them down. Just how LSU has handled in-state recruiting will be interesting to watch. I think that's going to be a big one. And then there's going to be surprises. Does a quarterback flip? It looks unlikely right now, but whenever that happens, something always crazy happens. And does Keyshawn Henderson stay committed to Houston? Does Ryder Lyons after his 1-year mission play at BYU? He told me that Joe Sloan, he had the best relationship with him, and if he gets a head coaching job somewhere, that could make things very, very interesting there. So even past this recruiting cycle, there are going to be kids that we're going to be watching. Those are some of the ones that are definitely at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah. We are through visit season. We're in the middle of commitment season, which means we're only a couple months away from flip season. So we will have all the seasons right here on the Inside Scoop. One more player I want to ask you about. There's not many number one players at their position available still, but Savion Hyder is still on the board, and we talk about him a lot on this channel, but he's really tough to read, doesn't do a lot of interviews, doesn't give a whole lot of insight into his recruitment. So just want to get your general opinion on it. What's your view of the Savion Hyder recruitment right now?
Yeah, Savion Hyder has done the classic thing, talk early and then disappear late. I mean, that has been the trend in recruiting for many years, NIL or not. He used to talk all the time. He loved talking about every school and every visit. But once it's gotten down to crunch time, I think he's kind of clammed up a little bit. Man, I want to say Ohio State. I am not very convinced that that's where he ends up. But, you look at like a Travion Henderson type kid or someone that they could sell with another running back. And running backs over the last decade, the trend has been running backs want to play together. They don't want to play.
So crazy.
Yeah, they don't want to play alone. They don't want to get that much tread on their tires. So I think Ohio State, the way that they've used running backs in the past, the way they've used Henderson, who is a kid that Hyder's very familiar with, probably has the edge. Maybe I'm not counting out Georgia. They have in years past taken multiple running backs, just like they will tight ends. They don't seem to care about that, and a lot of the kids don't care about that either. But right now, I'm going to give Ohio State the edge.
All right, Adam Gorney. We are rivals, teammates now. We appreciate you coming on the channel. We're going to have a whole lot more Adam Gorney as this cycle wears on. We appreciate you stopping by the Inside Scoop today.
All right, thanks, Josh.
He's back. Welcome in national analyst Sam Spiegelman. We are rivals teammates. We were on 3 teammates for about a year or two. Now we are rivals teammates. Welcome back, Sam.
Happy to be here, man.
Back like you never left. All right, we're going to get into the latest scoop and predictions from the Lone Star State. So you guys do me a favor, hit subscribe. All right, we are going to break into it with Booby Feaster because you just dropped a new pick for Booby Feaster, who's coming off the board in less than 48 hours, July 4th. Where do you got him going?
Yeah, Texas A&M has been leading this race since maybe April or May. But USC is the team with all of the traction ever since his June 6th official visit. USC, Dennis Simmons, Lincoln Riley started recruiting Feaster when he was in the 7th grade. We all know he turned into a national phenom as an underclassman, then reclassified at the top of this year. LSU has been a team that's been trending at the top. He's from Louisiana, a top priority for Brian Kelly and Cortez Hankton. A&M would love to keep him in state. Hallman Wiggins and Mike Elko, maybe his strongest relationships. But USC has the #1 class in the country. They're looking to polish it off with Feaster. They've been the team garnering the most buzz since that June 6th official visit. My prediction is in for USC for some fireworks on July 4th.
Nice. Booby Feaster's recruitment, Texas A&M has probably been the consistent program that's always mentioned with him, but how can you rule out USC? I like your pick for the Trojans. Let's move back a day. Let's go to July 3rd because we're going to get to the July 4th commitment of Felix Ojo here in a second. But on July 3rd, major defensive line target Cozy Akpala is going to make his decision. Is he going to be staying in-state, or do you think that somebody could pull him out?
Yeah, I think Penn State gave him a lot to think about, but Texas has been driving this race since, I don't know, he's been on campus 8 or 9 times since the start of the year. He's been a top target for this entire Texas defensive staff. No campus, he's not familiar with any more campus than he is in Austin, and he saved the best for last, visiting Austin on the 20th. I think since then, it's been an obvious choice for Texas with Cozy. My prediction is locked on the Longhorns. I think that this entire month of July is going to bode very well for Steve Sarkisian, building up that potentially top 3, top 2, top #1 class.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a big July for the Longhorns. Now, speaking of fireworks, Felix Ojo makes his announcement on July 4th. We talk about him a lot on this channel. We followed the visits. We've, been through the ups and downs of the trends of his recruitment, and now here we are about 36 hours from his commitment. How do you read it?
Yeah, his finalists, of course, include Florida, Michigan, but everyone is pointing to Texas and Ohio State. And ultimately, we expect it to come down to one of those 2 schools. I give the edge to Texas. No relationship is stronger than that with Steve Sarkisian and really Kyle Flood. This is a kid who has been leaning on track records of development and production, and Kyle Flood's resume speaks volumes to Felix Ojo and the people in his circle making this decision. We know that Texas is in a great spot from an NIL angle, but I'll throw this at you. Joey McGuire and Texas Tech have to be considered maybe an X factor, just a surprise team. They were not in the top 4, but certainly a team that we have heard some whispers about going into July 4th's announcement. Again, my prediction is on Texas. I think they've been leading the pack in this recruitment for a good deal of time, and his official visit to Austin only furthered that. I think they check every box for Ojo. But just keep an eye on Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders for me. You guys have seen Landman. This thing could get crazy toward the end, and we're not ruling them out entirely.
Yeah, really exciting recruitment. Now, John Turntine, interior offensive line, one of the best in the country, is also going to make his decision on July 4th. And this one, is there any way John Turntine's getting away from the Longhorns?
I don't think so. I logged my prediction for Texas today, and I'm feeling very good about that. I feel like Texas has been dictating this recruitment since last fall. We talked about Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian playing big roles here, and they've loved John Turntine since he was a young pup. He's been on campus at least a dozen times over the past 3 or 4 years, including for his official visit on the 13th. I think Michigan really impressed him. I think Texas A&M and Adam Cushing really impressed not only John, but his entire family. But as this decision has gotten closer, the more and more you hear Texas has been in a good spot. Texas checks the boxes for Turntine. And as we said a couple of times, it's shaping up to be a big July, especially on the offensive line for Texas. John Turntine has been a top target for this staff for a while.
All right, the next big commitment coming out of the Lone Star State is edge Jamarian Carlton, high-end 4-star, borderline 5-star athlete at the edge position. July 10th is going to be his decision time. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, this has been Texas's race to lose, I think, for months. Texas A&M really made this close in the spring and potentially even surpassed Texas at a different part of the offseason. But that official visit to Austin on, I think it was the 6th weekend, June 6th, that put Texas into the driver's seat. He canceled his A&M official visit. He also was at LSU. He made it to Baylor on June 20th. Of that group, I'm keeping an eye on LSU. Baylor has done a lot of good things in this recruitment, but Texas has been at the top of Jamarian Carlton's list for countless months. He called DKR the best environment he's ever been in. And on that official visit, his relationship with Alan Clark, Texas's first-year edge coach, I think it skyrocketed when they were able to connect on a personal level. I think this is a kid who lives less than an hour outside of Austin. I don't expect him to play too far from home when it's all said and done.
All right, two more for you. Athlete Jalen Lott comes off the board July 8th. Battle here. Texas, USC, LSU, Oregon. Who's going to win it?
Yeah, I think you can take Texas off the table, and that comes with Jalen Lott. His father played at Texas. James Lott played cornerback for the Longhorns. I think Texas is safely out of the equation going into July 8th. If a decision were made today, I like where Oregon is sitting with Jalen Lott. This is a kid that I think is going to get out of the state of Texas, is going to try to set a brand for himself, and what better than doing that at Eugene with Dan Lanning, competing for national championships on Nike's headquarters. But keep an eye out. We talked about USC and their surge with Boobie Feaster. Keep an eye out for LSU, which has really tried to close the gap with Oregon with Jalen Lott. We know that they're trying to keep Tristan Keys on board in that class, but they're also looking for a fourth receiver and potential options to replace Keys should he flip. Jalen Lott is someone they love his speed. He loves LSU's reputation with wide receivers, but there's a pretty big gap to close with Oregon at the moment.
All right, last one. Wide receiver Caden Finley, July 4th decision. We talk about him all the time on this channel. We know Notre Dame has him right at the top of their board. He's been trending that direction, but in the end, are the Longhorns going to snatch him from the Irish?
Well, we've been talking about all this Texas momentum, so let me just say, I'm just teasing. I like where Marcus Freeman and Mike Brown sit with Caden Finley. He took his first visit out to South Bend in the 8th grade. His aunt graduated from Notre Dame, and they do a terrific job, Marcus Freeman and that staff, recruiting NFL legacies, and that's what he is. Jermichael Finley might have played at Texas, but Caden Finley wants to create his own path. I think Notre Dame has showed him what that path would look like in South Bend, and I think they've been in the driver's seat since the spring, and I think that official visit might have just sealed the deal for Coach Freeman with a really talented receiver out of Aledo, Texas.
He's back like he never left. Sam Spiegelman, strong segment here on the Inside Scoop. We appreciate it.
Happy to be back, guys.
Summer rain has come to Tuscaloosa, and it is raining 5 stars. If you're going outside, you better bring your umbrella because the Tide landed another, just moments ago, 5-star wide receiver Cedarian Morgan jumps in the boat. Let's talk with Andrew Bone of Bama Online. Andrew, Cedarian Morgan's a big one. How were the Tide able to win this recruitment?
Well, I think it was a recruitment that started over a year ago. He was offered on May the 31st, 2024. And, we saw this last year. Alabama got it, and the new coaching staff arrived in January. They had to recruit these guys for 5-6 months to try to land them. This year's class, they've been recruiting them for over a year now. With Cedarian Morgan, this is a guy that grew up in the state of Alabama. Huge Alabama fan, big Alabama family, has been to Tuscaloosa so many times throughout the last year. Not only just himself, but he's brought 7 or 8 family members on just about every single trip with him. But it was close. There was a lot of schools that were involved that really wanted his commitment. But this is a major in-state win for Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, Jamarcus Shepard, and the entire Alabama coaching staff.
4th 5-star commitment of the cycle. I think it was the 3rd 5-star commitment in the past 7 days, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Alabama's on an absolute heater right now as far as 5-star commitments, but 10 commitments overall over the last 10 days, and it doesn't seem like they're finished this week.
Yeah, Alabama fans got to be going crazy right now on Bama Online and also on here. If you Bama fans, it's an exciting time. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruiting channel because we're not finished talking Bama recruiting. We're going to be doing this all summer long. All right, speaking of Bama recruiting, could there be a 5th 5-star coming to this class in less than a week?
Well, we've at least predicted one. So Jaira Edwards, 5-star safety out of Baltimore, is going to be announcing his decision on Saturday. He has not taken any other visits since his trip to Alabama on June the 6th weekend. He's narrowed it down to Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia, but canceled all of his remaining visits, including Oregon and Texas A&M, following that trip to Tuscaloosa earlier last month. So I think Alabama's in a pretty good spot with Jari right now, and I think that as on Saturday, he'll be the 5th five-star commitment in Alabama's class.
These commitments just keep rolling in. I haven't even had a chance to catch my breath yet. What would you say right now is the biggest remaining need still left to fill for Bama? Inside Scoop listeners, I got to tell you about a company that makes this show possible. It's Rhoback Activewear. The only way to describe Rhoback is best fit, best feel. And for those who are not familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs, clean hoodie, and quarter zip designs from some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable. They have an elastic waistband and a great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for everyday movement. Rhoback also has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So use code JOSH on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off all new custom orders through the end of this week. Let's spell it out for you. RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH.
I think if they can get Jira Edwards on Saturday, that's obviously going to be a huge need at safety to pair up with Rael Kelly out of Cincinnati. But remaining needs, I would look at offensive tackle. They have 2 offensive lineman commitments right now. So if they can add one more tackle in the class, they would feel very good about that. But as far as remaining needs, probably the number one position still defensive line. They have a great defensive line class, but I think if they could add 1 or 2 more guys, they have Tank Jones, number one player in the state of Alabama, and number 2, depending on what rankings you look at. But Tank Jones is certainly a big target for Alabama. Still is yet to announce when he's going to make that decision. Elijah Golden, 4-star defensive lineman, is going to announce a little bit later this month, another player that Alabama has recruited for a while. And we're going to be watching Nolan Wilson pretty closely on Thursday as he announces his college commitment. Alabama, Miami seem like the 2 schools that are really fighting hard at the end for Nolan Wilson, but Alabama's been there from the get-go, the very first offer for Nolan Wilson. So we'll see if that has an impact in his recruitment here on Thursday.
Yeah, we are just witnessing an incredible run right now. It's fun to watch, quite honestly. Alabama fans, chime in, talk to Andrew Bone and I. Who do you think is the most important target left on the board? There's some big ones. Let us know. Comment section below. We got to talk Notre Dame recruiting because names are going to be flying off the board over the next 3 days. Let's start. We're going to preview a couple of these with Mike Singer here from blueandgold.com. Let's start July 4th. Caden Finley, big battle here. We talk about him all the time. We know Notre Dame covets him, but in the end, is he going to really leave the state of Texas?
I think so. I've had my prediction in for the Irish Lamb back in February, and I know some Texas reporters have felt like he's leaning towards the Longhorns for a while, and you've seen predictions there, but those have flipped to Notre Dame. So I feel like Notre Dame's going to get him. I think such a big hurdle for Notre Dame to land Caden Finley, the elite prospect from Alito, Texas, is really getting his dad on board with his dad, Jermichael Finley, former Green Bay Packers tight end, and of course before that played for the Longhorns. I think it was really like getting him on board, like really getting him to like Notre Dame. And Finley visited twice, and I think those are the 2 times that the dad visited. So if the dad's on board with Notre Dame, not that he would say, no, you're not allowed to go to Notre Dame, but I think that is like a key thing, like getting everyone in the family on board. Because I've said this for months. I think Notre Dame is where Caden Finley wants to be. And if all things kind of check out behind the scenes, then I think that's where we'll end up committing, but we'll see on the 4th.
All right. Huge addition on the offensive side of the ball, but might not be the last. Let's talk about July 5th. 1 day later, Devin Fitzgerald, Larry Fitzgerald's son, is going to be making his decision, and I'm feeling the Irish here.
How about like Notre Dame, just their track record of NFL legacies that they're going after, and yeah, Jermichael Finley's son, but, and then could they also land Larry Fitzgerald's son? I mean, potentially a tremendous receiver class for Notre Dame, especially at a position of weakness for the Irish over the years. Like you look to the receiver room, you're like, man, they could really overhaul that unit. So, and they looks like they could do that in the 2026 class. They got 2 committed already. We'll see what Finley does. Fitzgerald, I like Notre Dame there as well. I've got a prediction in for the Irish to land him, and he was really good at the OT7 event this past weekend, Josh. And it seems like his lower 3-star ranking is going to change here soon. I wouldn't be shocked if rivals ended up bumping him to a 4-star. So Devin Fitzgerald, Notre Dame offered later, but I think that the Irish end up getting that one done. Like Notre Dame offered later,
yeah,
but they didn't start recruiting him late. They've been on him for a while.
All right, July 6th, one day later, another wide receiver, Braden Robinson, speedster, out of the state of Texas, another one from the state of Texas. This one seems like it's lining up for the Irish as well. How much room do they have for more elite wide receivers?
Yeah, I could see them going sweeping the weekend and calling it a day with 5 wideouts, some talented speedsters as well. Bubba Frazier's been committed to Notre Dame for a few months, and he's one of the fastest players in the state of Georgia. His track times are incredible. So this would be awesome. And Josh, where Braden, is he announcing with anyone in particular? Do you know?
Oh, he will be announcing right here on the Rivals Recruits channel. It's going to be a blast. We've had live commitments left and right. If you guys hit subscribe, you will get notified. So Irish fans, you never know really when they're going to pop up, but if you hit subscribe, you'll get that notification and you can be here for all the action.
Notre Dame, Miami, Arizona, top 3. I think the Irish get that one done. They've been on him for a long time. He was one of their pot of gold day offers from March of 2024. He's visited 3 times this calendar year. Yeah, I think the relationships that he has with the Notre Dame commits and staff are going to help, get that one done for Notre Dame.
All right. So that sets the table for at least the holiday weekend. But the month of July, we're going to see commitments all throughout the month. Who else are you keeping an eye on?
Yeah. So Notre Dame at 22 commits right now. And it's like you could see this class by August could be like 90 to 95% full.
I know.
I think July 11th, you have Nick Reddish from Charlotte Independence, a top 2 of Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. He has 2 brothers that play for the Hokies. I think that Notre Dame wins that recruitment. Got a prediction log there. And then I think it's July 26th, Elijah Golden, that's a Notre Dame, Alabama battle with Virginia Tech and Oklahoma in the mix. It's a defensive lineman. He's from Virginia, plays his ball in Sarasota, Florida. I like Notre Dame to edge out Alabama. And this is not just like, the Notre Dame guy saying Notre Dame's going to get everybody. I just think that the 5 kids we've now talked about in this video, I think they get all of them. That would bring them to 27 commitments. And then they possibly could take a 3rd tight end, Evan Jacobson from Waukee, Iowa. I know he's not like overly thrilled that Notre Dame already has 2 tight end commits, but he texted me today, hey, I'm a competitor. I wouldn't be scared away by that. But he also likes Iowa State and Texas A&M. And, as you know, Josh, sometimes these coaching staffs and recruiting office, do they ever really finish the class in August? One way or another, it's like, this kid decommits, let's go fill the spot,
right.
Or this guy transfers out, it's like, hey, we're bored. Let's go get a 3rd linebacker or a 5th defensive lineman, whatever the case may be. So I think this class for Notre Dame will be around 28, maybe 29 guys. Like sources in South Bend tell me that coming off of that season, Notre Dame wants to just get as many talented players as possible. They're not really worried about, we don't want to take too many guys. Get as many guys as you can right now because when you're hot, you're hot, and Notre Dame is definitely that on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, they're sitting currently. This is before the flurry of commitments that we just previewed. They're sitting at number 3 in the Rivals industry ranking. So is it me or is this one of the best Notre Dame classes in recent memory? You're the Notre Dame guy. You tell me.
Yeah, according to the industry ranking, Notre Dame's got the chance to sign their best recruiting class in really the internet era. Wow. I know some folks who would say, this Weiss era team, or actually, well, not Weiss. Go back. Well, that was internet era. Go back to like a Holtz year or something. Like, But if you look at the industry ranking, Notre Dame's the score, not like where they ranked first, second, third, or fourth, their score. The 2013 class was a 92.738. That ranked number 4 nationally. Right now, Notre Dame's is a 92.659. That is 0.1 away. And for what Notre Dame could add, potentially moving forward with guys like Caden Finley and Elijah Golden, and Notre Dame's blue chip ratio right now is very good as well. So you're talking about 80 plus. So when that average number of commits used in the ranking score right now, Josh, it's 15. When that goes to 18 or 19 or 20, I only think that's going to help Notre Dame because they have such a deep class. Whereas in years past, Notre Dame drops because they have a blue chip ratio between like 55 and 60%. So this is actually going to help Notre Dame. I think they're looking at their first top 5 class since that 2013 year. I would not be surprised if that's the case. Like, this is a very talented and deep class, like Marcus Freeman and company, they're cooking.
And if they keep playing the way that they are on the football field, there's going to inevitably be some flips down the road. I mean, Notre Dame's going to be the one doing the flipping. And they could potentially even add more firepower to this class. So it's going to be an explosive weekend, not just because it's July 4th, but because I think the Irish are going to land a few commitments. Mike Singer, blueandgold.com. Thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop.
Anytime, Josh.